him wanted to be the security guy. He claimed he was a security guy.
All right, sir. Welcome to Security Guy Radio. What's your name?
Well, third day at the RSC West Show, and my name is Webb Wayne. I'm with a company called PlaySmart Technologies, and we are a license plate recognition software manufacturer.
Now, that's important, the software, right? A lot of cameras, a lot of people saying, oh, I got a license recognition camera. That's great. My Samsung phone will take a picture of your license plate. It's about the software. And
Exactly.
not all software is effective, right?
Nowadays, it's all about software.
Right.
You look around cameras, you have many choices. You know, it'll be really bad thing, say, use my software, but you have to use my camera. What happened to thousands of other camera choices? So nowadays, it's all about software.
Oh, interesting. So you are not proprietary. You can plug into existing camera systems.
That's exactly how this company be funded on,
right.
is to create a technology that is absolutely camera agnostic, and we'll pull it off.
Camera agnostic. I love it. That's a great phrase.
Yes.
Tell us the history about your company.
Well, the company actually started back in 2004, and we've been doing a lot of research, and we know that at that time, the camera not even digital. So it's analog
that's
cameras.
True. That's right.
So, but we know that eventually the software will take over, just like a PC industry. You know, nowadays, a laptop is a laptop, but
right.
what makes a difference is the software running on that. So we believe the same thing. So we started a company, and for the first about around 5 years, we've been heavily invested in R&Ds, and everybody knows nowadays, you look at the United States plates, they're very complex
right.
design-wise, and to take on that task is a very uphill battle. So we realize that, and we know that North America is the biggest market from a LPR, from a physical security, general speaking wise. So we invest on that, and we'll pull it off. And now we're enjoying the status of being the leader in this category.
Oh.
Being the leader, we have received, this year actually, we received our third Govy Awards, Platinum Awards. And that covers this year and 2015 and 2014. So 3 years in a row as they, to acknowledge the innovations in this field. So we're very proud to receive that honor.
Now, I see a lot of products every year, thousands of them, right? And a lot of times there's a great product, and it doesn't match the name. And I can't put the two together, right? When I saw PlateSmart, I knew what it did. I just got it, right? So that's I want to give you kudos on that. I think that's just a great name. It's a verb, kind of tells you what you do, right? That kind of thing.
Yep. Thank you very much for the kudos.
Yeah.
And actually, the company started off with the name Cyclops Technologies, big eyes,
Yeah.
and looking at the the surroundings. And then we eventually, we soon enough to focus ourselves on the plate recognition. So we realized that, the name needs to reflect that. So as you see, there's a plate there, and hopefully we're doing things smart.
So in a minute, we're going to take a look at the software itself. You kind of see it in the background. This is the interface. Give me some ideas of what applications these are used for. HOAs, homeowners associations, I assume is kind of a big one. Mm-hmm. But give me some other ideas on who uses this and why.
Well, if you don't mind, allow me to maybe spend 1 minute on talking about a little bit of background information, why this industry is more and more embracing this type of technology.
Okay.
Because if you look back, 5 years ago, license plate recognition is something some people know about it, a lot of people don't know about it.
Right.
So there's a lot of education needed. But nowadays, if you look around this, this year's ISC West show floor, LPR is being showcased at many of the booths, and is being printed right there on the top of the banner.
Right, and when it first came out, people claimed it worked, but it didn't exactly work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even now, with many years of education now, when you talk about LPR, most of people still say, oh, LPR, is that the bulky, special design LPR camera?
Right.
And that does all the wonderful things. And then you have to point it in one way, not the other way, to get the results. Right. And the results, sometimes you got to keep your finger crossed because the accuracy is not guaranteed. Well, not anymore. Not anymore. We'll throw out all of those,
So with your software, we can use less cameras.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting.
And exactly. So what we believe is that security, the large part of the effectiveness of a security strategy is based on your coverage. That's why nowadays surveillance project, you're talking about a project easy to cover, a couple thousand cameras because they're scattered all over the place. Now, obviously, I mean, the technology and the pricing of those equipment really enable us to do those kind of projects. I mean, if every camera costs you, $3,000, you're not gonna do a 3,000 camera project. But if the camera only costs you $150, then obviously you're gonna do that. So we follow the same philosophy as well. So by software only, we are able to first tap into there's millions of cameras out there. Second is we are able to control our price point to make it very affordable. The goal is to enable this called mass deployment. Mass deployment translates to much better coverage, and better coverage translates to a much effective security gesture.
So your software is going to work on the $3,000 camera and the $150 camera.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, how do you handle that technology-wise? How do we do that?
Well, actually, I'm gonna bore you guys a little bit.
We like that. We like boring sometimes.
What's in the technology is actually we use some techniques that's very hot nowadays. We use machine learning. We use artificial intelligence. Yes.
I just interviewed a company that's doing that. That's the latest thing. That's very advanced.
Yeah. So plugging a little bit of technical jargon here. We use things like supervised learnings. We use principal component analysis. Those are all very popular artificial intelligence techniques to help us to. I mean, think about it. Every pixel come in, you got millions of. Every image coming, you got millions of pixels.
Millions, yeah.
One pixel is equal to the other pixel.
Right.
From a mathematics standpoint, how do you know those pixels, those couple thousand pixels together constitutes that license plate? Right?
Oh, I see. Right.
So those are the technologies
if
that
you learn the
use.
pixels, then eventually we learn that this configuration of pixels equals the letter B.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And you hit it right on that. This is the other thing we do things slightly different from our fellow LPR, other LPR vendors, is that our technology, we don't call them a character recognition technology. It's not OCR. We actually doing object recognitions. So what that means to everybody is that a letter A to us is not a character A, it's object A. So that object A could be object orange,
right?
Could be object peach, and Florida plates got a little orange in the middle.
Right.
Georgia plates got a peach in the middle. So we turn around and use that technology to recognize those objects and be able to tell the state of origin.
That's a great idea.
And if your technology is purely based on character recognition, then you cannot tell which state this plate is belonging to or which country this plate is belonging to. So our technology has been built since day one to aim really high and aim really far. So
I think that's very unique because, as I recall, when I was trying to price some software and cameras like this back in the day, first of all, it cost tens of thousands of dollars, okay? Astronomical cost, and only the rich homeowners associations could afford it, right? But it was OCR. It wasn't anything to do with the orange, the Georgia peach or the Florida orange or anything like that. It's strictly the letters, and you're right, it didn't tell us what state, and that's the most important thing. You got to know that.
Absolutely. And you mentioned years ago they're doing that. They're still doing it. So if you look at the LPR
your competitors
vendors,
are still doing OCR.
Yeah, typically on the market, LPR vendors, when you get contact with them or doing the research, you'll find out typically two camps. One is the camera agnostic. The other one is the camera dependent.
Okay.
So we are camera independent. They are camera dependent. So what you described is that expensive approach, very niche approach, that's still there. People, companies still marketing that. Because there's markets. There's a market for that type of situation, for that type of solution, such as like a toll booth, toll collection places where they cannot afford to have even a slight drop of from 100% of accuracies because people's the toll fees and whatever depending on that. So there's niche markets that require this type of technology, but the mass amount of market, they are very adaptable to our technology and using the camera they have. So one of the things we always say is our technology can come in to help you without the rip and the replacement of your camera, which is a very powerful statement.
So you use this in access control. That's one application. But before the show, we talked about parking. I hadn't thought about that. That's a great application because more and more people want to make some revenue, and let's make some money with parking tickets, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that fascinates me is that when I deal with the customers and going through the projects, I find out that so many people, they apply that imagination, almost limitless, almost as high as a blue sky. What they can do, what they want to do with the LPR technology. So you just mentioned, parkings and access controls. So majority of those nowadays still focusing on securities. They like to use this technology to tab onto the camera feeds they already have. So in addition to recording from that feed, now they can get the digital data out of it at a real time because it typically take us 100 milliseconds, which is a 1/10 of a second time to get that license plate information out and to do the background checks.
That's
so
it?
It's near real time.
Wow.
If it's not real time, it's near real time.
Yeah.
So they enjoy that the result from this technology in terms of security. But like you said, from that, this technology, because the accuracy gets to the point that like 98%, 100%, it is very easy or feasible to apply that to the fields like access control. So once you talk about access control, then you talk about parking lot management.
Right.
And in the parking lot even parking industry is going through a revolution right now, what they call the ticketless parking experience. So, it's not going to be the old days.
It's not tickless to me, the end user. It's tickless to them.
Oh yeah, you still have to pay. You still have to pay. Now,
That's
hopefully, they can pass down some of those savings to the to the
get a lot of
drivers,
parking
so
tickets.
that we don't end up paying them a crazy amount of
Yeah.
money. But that's what the industry is going through, and it resonates with everything else going on. Look at the cameras. Now, this show, what I noticed is that 5K or 4K cameras all over the place,
Right.
and I believe the price of those 4Ks should drop very dramatically to the
But
affordable level.
there's still not you can't put it on your desktop. You don't have enough memory still. So some of the devices for playback haven't caught up yet. It's getting there, right?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
But you don't need a 4K camera with your software. Your software is going to be forgiving and take a lower resolution camera and still get the job done.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I want to make sure people understand that
Exactly.
we don't
So-
have to have the highest camera for this.
Yeah, and a perfect point, because I've been asked a lot of time. They say, "Hey, PlaySmart, you guys said any camera. What do you mean by that? If I have a project like this and then like that?"
Right.
Well, I said, well, it depends. But theoretically speaking, we work on the images. So if you have a camera that can provide me that image, and I can do the job.
Now, can we take an analog with the converter and make it work?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
When
That's
those guys ask me, I got it.
You know why I asked that? Last year in Anaheim, one of the conventions,
Yeah.
I read some stats that as of 2014, analog cameras still outsold digital. Isn't that amazing? Well, it's cheaper.
Well,
I mean, that's
that,
one way.
that
but-
tells you how dynamic this industry
I
is,
know.
and also how competitive this
You gotta be able to
industry
adapt.
is.
Yeah.
And I know, not that I distracted from this conversation, HD analog, which is another type of a new camera come out.
Right.
It's analog, but it does
Interesting.
HD.
Interesting.
Right. So the idea is to embrace the existing legacy infrastructure, so that you don't have to end up investing a lot more.
Now-
so yeah, this industry becomes
So let's talk about a government application. And there's some states that may allow this, but back in the day, my private eye license, I could run license plates. State of California lets you do that for specific purpose, right?
Yes.
And I could get certain information to serve subpoenas and stuff. Could you hook this into a, let's just say, government agency that's allowed to get license plate data? Can your software recognize the license plate, run a DMV check to make sure it's a valid license plate, and come back with a confirmation?
The answer is absolutely yes.
Oh, wow.
And now, whether this product right now can do that,
Right.
well, it depends whether you have that connection to that database, and depending on whether you know about how the data gets mapped from our world
Right,
to their
okay.
world, so
Yeah,
that you can do proper background
That's called
checks.
a GUI, a graphic user interface, right? To
Absolutely.
connect the two? Okay.
Absolutely. So I would say that that's actually the easy part, and the difficult part is I give you millions of pixels, and you tell me what's in there, right?
Yeah, that's the easy part, the connecting the two. Yeah,
that's
you're
the
right.
difficult part.
Okay.
Now, the easy part is really to getting the database connected. I mean,
Yeah.
which is, no brainer.
The reason
As
I
long as-
asked, there was a device going around Southern California a while ago that sat on top of a police car, and it had like one of those real estate 360 cameras, Google Earth cameras,
Yes.
right? And it was scanning license plates all day long,
Yep.
looking for that one they're trying to find.
Right.
I'm not sure how successful it was. It's kind of a trial basis, but your software seems like it would be better than what they had because it just seems more versatile, with the pixelation
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm so happy you touched on that, because that's a very a classic debate between a fixed type of application versus a mobile type of application.
Right.
Mobile type of application, that's where LPR technology started off, is that a police officer says, I need another guy to help me to scan the street. So it's going to be a computer.
Right.
All right. So they call it a force multiplier. But those are different type of operating environment that requires a very very engineering-wise, strongly designed engineering approach. That's why you typically see the cameras is not a conventional camera anymore.
No, they're
it's
not,
a specially designed camera to put on the rooftop or next to the light bars and to scan the streets. And those solutions typically come in very expensive, minimum of $20,000 to stand up a car, a vehicle. Now, what we're believing is that as more and more fixed cameras deployed out there, think about a city. So many cities and launching those projects and to get the cameras deployed at every intersections. So you don't have to get the LPR mounted on the vehicle. You could just go have the
use
city
existing
covered
cameras.
with a mesh or whatever,
Yeah.
and then have the officers to get a piece of viewer like let me show you like this. Get a piece of viewer like this, and you install it on the laptop, and as
This could be a camera on a bank, and you're driving by, right?
the camera is mounted on that intersection.
Right.
The officer is driving close to that intersection. Guess what? The software is smart enough to say, you close to that camera, these are the information off that
So
camera.
we are at the point. And
So as you drive through the coverage, through the city, you have constant coverage, as opposed
without
to
building a new network.
without building a network. You just reuse it over and over. So we believe that fixed type of application is a lot more efficient than a mobile type of application, and it's a lot cheaper to deploy that, because once you deploy it, you use that over and over.
So we every year I ask some people about the technology, and I say, are we at the point where we have a CSI computer or a person of interest computer? Remember those two TV shows where, okay, let's run the plate, boys, and there it is, and they, on the person of interest, they could follow people through the whole city with that software and track them on all the existing cameras. Sounds like we're there, almost. It can be done. It can be done. Nobody's doing it, maybe, right? But in theory, we could take your software, we could plug it into a city that had cameras around the city, because that's just what they're doing, taking pictures of all kinds of things, and that would work. It would grab things as cars are driving by in those camera views. Is that right?
You're absolutely right.
Wow.
And it's already there. The technology is already enabled people to do that. Now, the catch is, and to this point, I have to agree with ACLU. ACLU has been advocating their voice against the technology, not necessarily against the technology, the LPR technology itself, and against how to use the technology with a lack of supervision, lack of access rights, and
well,
whatnot.
that always happens with
Right.
cops.
So,
I mean,
so
you're
in
not gonna fix
theory,
that part.
technologically speaking, yes, you have all of these reads from all of those cameras at the intersections. They're all reporting geolocations of it. In theory, you can track a guy. So what PlaySmart is believing in that, I'll talk about that here, is that we're not a believer in standing up a nationwide data center, like some of our competitors doing. They're having all of the feeds all consolidated into one place, and so you end up tracking the people, big brother people.
I think one place is a bad idea. I agree.
Right. What we're believing is that we have a technology, we have a product, we'll give it to those responsible organizations like the law enforcement agencies or statewide, fusion centers. They're responsible for that, and we'll also give them a tool so they can build a proper access rights, a proper supervision of that, a proper audit trail of that, so that that tool gets properly used, not being abused. Right, so that's what we believe in. We're hands off from a so-called national data center.
I'm a little
we allow
confused.
them to build their mini data centers that is wholly owned by them.
Right. Now, why would the ACLU be against this? And by the way, they get it right sometimes, right? I'm not sure they get it right on this, because this is in the public. We're driving on a public street in a car. There's no expectation of privacy. If I was a police officer standing there, I could run your license plate. Why is this different having the camera? Why do they? What's their?
Well, being a vendor, and I would love to have more projects and more sale out there, right? But I have to agree that the license plate information is public, so there's no.
Well, no. I can't publicly get your license plate information, who you are, but I can see it.
That's exactly where I'm going.
Yeah.
Who you are is a huge difference. There's a huge difference from what do you have. So the license plate, you got an ABC123 license plate on the back of your vehicle. Everybody sees it. There's no privacy on that. You have no rights of hiding it. But from there, who you are, like tapping into DMV information, find out who you are.
Oh, okay.
That
so
information should not be made publicly easily accessible.
So when I was a motor
without
cop,
to do supervision on it.
Yeah, when I was a motor cop, I would drive down the street, and I might run a license plate. But usually I ran it because I was going to stop the car because I had probable cause, or I was going to give you a ticket.
Yeah.
I didn't usually randomly run license plates. If you had a hunch something was funny, like license plate light is out, or the guy looked like he, was a criminal, you could run it, and sometimes it comes back stolen, right? So I get it now. I can see what you're saying, because this software, your software, with the interface and the DMV, can run every single license plate all day long.
They can. They can. I believe some of the organizations, provided
Very
they have that rights to do that, and they can. They can. And now the other interesting thing is going back to the argument on mass deployment, because, more coverage, the better off. We have something as a product feature offered by PlaySmart. It's called a PlaySmart Network.
Say it again?
PlaySmart Network.
Okay.
Which is a peer-to-peer connected relationships. What that does is that, say, the law enforcement, they have a installation of this fixed applications so that it can tap into any cameras they have, but also they reach out to forge a public-private relationship with, say, HOAs. Those HOAs also have their product from PlaySmarter. They run their own thing, they own their data, but they have their own interest of knowing who's on site, who's not, or whatever. But in the same time, through this PlaySmart network connection, the private side can connect to the public side, which is law enforcement, and let the law enforcement to get a copy of that plate information and run through whatever the database they have.
Okay.
So it's a much heightened security for the private side.
Right.
So the private side is benefiting greatly from that, right? Because now you get to know, whether there's a criminal on your property. On the public side, on the law enforcement side, it benefits them as well because they don't have to spend more money to replicate another camera to put it at the HOAs or put it at the neighboring shopping malls or credit union branch offices and whatnot. Because those private entities, they have an interest to stand it up, but in the same time, they're helping the law enforcement to do the job.
Now, let's talk about recognition. There's 50 states, 50 license plates. By the way, there's more. California has at least 10 license plates now. One of them is the old black and yellow. From when I was a kid, right? They're going back to that. And there's no California, illustration on there. There's no reference to California. It's just black and yellow, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of plate in the dark might be really hard to see. How does your software handle that?
I got asked quite a few times at the show today.
Yeah.
Not today, the last couple of days, about this new California license plate.
The old new plate.
I don't know why they designed that, but okay. So earlier I mentioned the license plate solution-wise, we got two camps. One's depending on the camera or depending on the hardware. The other one's us.
Right.
So those depending on the hardware, they usually utilize a technology called infrared.
Right.
So they use infrared, shine that out, and hopefully the plate reflects back, and they can focus on the plate and to do their OCR. Right. In this case, the new California plate, it doesn't work because that yellow the yellow paint they use.
Yeah, I don't think the yellow reflects.
It's not reflective at all. So in that case, their technology is going blind, regardless. Throughout the day, day or night.
Oh, even in the day it's difficult.
Even the day is difficult because even during the day, they still rely on that infrared goes out and gets reflected back.
Right.
Now, our technology during the day is purely just use natural light, visible lights, visible. So in that case, we still function.
Okay,
Doesn't
that's
matter.
good.
It's a black background, yellow lettering on top, no problem at all. Now, once
it's not OCR.
It's not OCR.
It's pixel. So,
Same technology.
Right.
We report the state jurisdictions, all the other things. Also the vehicle makes, and I'll touch on that as well. So during the day, we have no problem. Now, during the night, there's no visible light anymore, so we do have to rely on the infrared. In that case, we face the same situation.
Okay, very interesting.
Now, we have so many applications like hospitals or HOAs. They say, you know what, don't worry about it. At night, I'm not going to use IR. I'll just beef up my lighting. Get like casinos. They just beef up the lighting.
That's true.
That'll make the place just as if it's daylight. Then in that case, we have no problem. Just keep going. Yeah.
I think I know exactly why California did that. Because California doesn't want you to look at their license plates. California has some strange ideas about stuff.
Well, hopefully that remains as a vanity plate. So only like we're
going to get more bad guys.
1/10 of a 1/10 of a
let's all the bad guys move to California because you can't see my plate.
Well, be careful of that. If you started using the yellow plates,
that's right.
That means you got something you want to hide.
So you want to take a look at the interface here? So now, if you guys are listening to this on a podcast, you want to go to YouTube, and then you can actually log in and see the interface for this. I'm going to zoom the camera in a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll describe for my podcast listeners what we're seeing. Well, what I'm looking at is a very simple user interface. I have two screens, left and right of center, and on the right-hand side I have my data fields of the plates that are being scanned, the source of the data, the date and time, the make, and the state. And then down below I have some alerts. Look to me like maybe that's maybe a hit on a stolen plate or something like that? Or?
Yeah, we just made up some alerts.
Sure, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead and walk us through this.
Okay, so what you see here is actually it's a very good demonstration of how our technology works. So basically, these two, we just what we did is we went out there on the street, we recorded, and then we use a camera simulation software so that we can do that at the show because the show doesn't have us, the internet connections for us to tap into a live camera. But from the software standpoint, it is as real as if it's off a real a real camera. So,
Sure.
so the software here is basically establishing a video connection to the camera and analyze the video by doing the image grabbing. So we could grab the images at a very fast rate, say 25 frames per second, or we can do 5 frames per second, depending on your project. Again,
Now, what would that
slow speed versus
what would
high
that
speed.
translate to a car driving by? How fast?
A car driving by, if a car driving by on for the left-hand side of the 50 miles kind of situation, our software need to operate at about 25 frames per second so that we don't miss any cars. But for HOA traffic or garage entry traffic, and those are like 5 miles, 10 miles max,
Yeah.
we can do as low as 5 frames per second. So the frame rate translates the data load into the system.
So a car going about 25, 30 miles an hour, you can catch it.
We'll catch them as no problem at
What's
all.
the highest speed of a car you can
We
catch?
can do again, we use conventional cameras. So we don't use specially designed cameras.
Yeah, let's just
so
say-
we can go as high as like 80 miles, 100
Really?
miles, no problem.
Wow,
Yes.
that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, conventional camera. You're
Sure.
talking about probably a max of $1,000 camera. That'll do the job.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
So the other interesting is that we actually revealed at this show is our HD engine, the high definition engine. So this is a good comparison between a high definition and a standard definition.
There's a huge difference on that. Again, go to the YouTube page to take a look at this, but there's a significant difference. I can make out the one on the right, but I can clearly see at a greater distance the license plate on the left.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, that this is a camera that is looking at
how HD is that?
this is not even that HD. It's a 2 megapixels. So
It didn't look too
it's,
high, right?
It's
But
a
it's good.
1080p.
Yeah.
It's a 1080p resolution. Now think about it as a 4K camera.
Oh, man.
Now with 1080p, we can establish a camera view like this wide. With 4K, the camera view could be extended all the way out to here.
Right.
And we're still doing LPRs. So you got multiple lanes of coverage out of one camera.
Oh, yeah, because that 1080 is such a wide screen.
Yeah.
And if you have a 4-lane, 5-lane, 6-lane highway, let me ask you that. How do you grab a freeway with 10 cars going by at 50 miles an hour? Can you do it?
We can do that.
Wow.
The technology can do that. And
Okay.
in that case, it's probably going to
Longer
depending on what
process.
kind of a CPU you have,
Yeah,
or how long you can bear to wait for that. Because I mentioned earlier, on the average, we do 100 milliseconds to process that and come back with the results.
Right.
But if you gave me a 4K, it may take 30 seconds to come back.
That's
so
okay.
depending on the application,
Yeah.
if you can afford to do that, then but in theory, yes.
Most
yes, you
places
can.
aren't doing a freeway. They're doing a parking lot, an
Yeah.
event, homeowners association, that kind of thing. So
Right, record keepings or
Yeah.
collections and some offline
Right.
analysis and whatnot. And our technology keeps evolving. So we understand, 4K represents a huge data load. It's going to translate to longer processing time. But again, we own this technology, so we know how to do it. So one of the things on my roadmap is what we can do to speed it up.
Right.
We're going to do a lot of creative ways to speed it up. So soon enough, we're going to see a 4K imagery, live view, and license plate popping up at real time.
Wow.
That I can
Now,
promise you.
I like this user interface. Who is a typical end user of this interface? I'm thinking a guard at a property, maybe.
A guarded property. Actually, this is a software that we designed for police officers to use in the car. So because they need,
Really?
they
Oh.
need the real interactions
Yeah.
between the software and the results, so that they can work on that. Say if it's a stolen car, it pops up on the screen, so they can put in their notes. What they do with it.
Right.
But for the situation you described, the HOAs, private properties, or corporations, facilities, those type of situation, we actually have another product, which is having a lot more tractions. This is called a fixed application.
Okay.
So fixed application, you look at here, this is where cameras are being connected to the system. Very easy.
On the left-hand side. So this looks, for people on the podcast, this looks like a Windows Explorer menu.
Yes.
Directory. Very simple, right?
Mhm.
Then on the right-hand side, we have a split screen, camera on top, camera on bottom.
Right.
Capturing things as they drive by.
Yeah, exactly. So it's designed to bear that enterprise quality. So that means it can scale unlimited. So we just won a contract with New York City to do more than 200 lines.
Oh, wow.
So that, based on what I know, is so far the largest LPR deployment ever in this industry. Going back to mass deployment, because
Right.
this is such a good case study, so that with PlaySmart technology, use conventional camera, much lower deployment cost, that can enable
Right.
mass deployment.
And that's going to be, at least 50% of everything that's out there right now until everybody catches up with HD.
We love it. We
It's
love
gonna be
the fact
standard
that
analog and-
there's a company that did market research on that. they say right now, at least global-wise, more than 200 million cameras out there.
Wow.
More than 200 million. So if we can manage to tap onto even 1% of that,
Right.
that's huge.
That's amazing. Now, I always ask this question. What's on the drawing board? If you can tell us what's on the drawing board. Where are you going with stuff? You got something that's the latest, greatest, next level on this thing?
Yeah, we do.
All right.
I'm the guy, never stop, and I don't know why, but I guess it's passion driven. So my roadmap has always been there, always keep stretching down the road. So I can, at this show, it's our company traditions that at ISC West, annual basis, we'll always introduce something new, something very exciting and juicy in terms of, improving this technology. So
Right.
we're working on something else that is going to, we understand our technology can be used by many, many, many other places. So
right. Besides security. Yeah.
Besides security,
Right.
like I said, the imagination, goes as high as the sky. So we're going to put our technology to the cloud and to turn around, offer that as a SaaS, as a service.
Oh, interesting.
So that we can enable other businesses, other sectors that we don't even know if they need an LPR, they can tap onto this.
That's right. It's always your imagination is one thing, mine's a different, and there are probably people that might watch this and say, I can use this software, and you don't even know who they are yet. That type of business, you weren't aware of it, right?
Exactly. I mean, just like, Microsoft, and they have SDKs so that enable so many business applications and software is being written off it. And some of it, they don't even know.
Right.
So we like to see that so that we can build a ecosystem around PlaySmart so that we can take this technology, wonderful technology, to benefit other industry.
Now, I'm going to ask you a wild question here. Why can't your company, why can't PlateSmart do facial recognition with this technology?
One, we want to be focused. And
Okay.
being focused, because doing license plate recognition itself is enough of a task. So our
It's
company,
a different technology than facial?
It's I was slightly different.
Okay.
And but we do have that talent that can get us into the facial. As a matter of fact, we have a project, which is right now is kind of like under the radar, but not anymore, I guess,
Right.
with this. So we are working on that, the facial side, because we believe we're proving ourselves that we can pull this off. Our talent, our technology should be able to get us into the facial world. And the facial world so far is still just like the early stage of the LPR world. It's controlled by the few companies,
Right.
and not widespread, and usually not that cheap. So we like to
right.
replicate
And
our
it
success
works
stories.
very good, but it's not perfect still. I mean, nothing
Exactly.
ever is, but it's
Exactly.
getting there. It's a lot better than it was 10 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, speaking of roadmaps, and the other one that we're working on is that we like to offer this as to as many organizations, individuals as possible. So we're working on a cloud model so that we can put this services and this technology on the cloud, so that they enable organizations very easily to sign up and to use the service.
And you have no restrictions as the seller to offer this to private sectors, public sectors, businesses, that kind of thing, right? I mean, you can sell it to anybody.
Right now we have no restrictions, but when we do business, we're very conscious on how they want to use this technology and
Right.
what it's that for. And that's why, as a part of the product feature, we have audit functionalities. We have very stringent access control rights, so that if you don't have your login account doesn't have that level, you're not going to see that part of the product.
Now, you mentioned machine learning. Do we have analytics on this software? In other words, if I'm the guard and I get up to go to the bathroom and I wasn't watching the screen, I might have missed something. Can we run reports and say, show me an anomaly, show me a plate that comes in every Tuesday that I didn't know about?
You hit another wonderful points. I hope you're on my team. Because it's very natural. Once we overcome the hurdle of recognition technology such as this becomes mature, becomes very predictable. Very natural next thing is what I do with it.
You have
What
so
am I
much
doing?
data. That's right. It can mean all kinds of things.
Right now, yes, I'll keep that as a record. Okay, so I can pull back, say yesterday, 2:00 in the morning, who shows up on my site. You can do that.
Right.
But the analytics is where this company is definitely going to go into. And we believe, from industry to industry, they have very specific needs for the analytics. Tell you what, say casino. Casino, they have a need. They may have a need saying, what are those demographics behind those vehicles?
Visitors,
Some of those
states,
carriers, different
Yeah.
states and whatnot. And can I use your analytics technology to have some kind of a predictions for me? Say, next year, usually you say, from February to March, that's the peak time. The peak time of VIP guys.
Sure.
So I need to line up more resources and get ready for that. Those kind of things. So we believe as technology collect more data, that's going to enable us to get those analytics component out.
So I'll tell you a story. So we were at Disney. I was at Disney. I ran security there for a while. And one day, we used to have guards write down logs, write down things that look suspicious, just a hunch on a paper log. So one day I'm revealing the logs, and I see at every gate, and we had about, 10 gates between 5 or 6 properties, right? I saw the same license plate at each gate throughout the city. And we're talking about I'm not talking about one location with 10 gates. I'm talking 10, 8 properties with 10 gates, right? And we found out from one officer that this car was taking photographs of the studio, right? And this is kind of when the Gulf War was kind of, coming to a peak and stuff, made us a little nervous. And I would have loved to have something like this that told me when that license plate showed up at the second gate, not the 10th gate, because that's tomorrow now, and I missed him. And I might have been able to catch him in the progress and stop what he was doing, right? So I can see this being used as an analytical tool that way. Theme parks, hey, listen, I got the same license plate that shows up every single day. Who goes to the park every single day? Maybe somebody doing a surveillance, right?
Yeah.
So again, I don't even need to know whose license plate that is from a company point of view, because I'm going to call the cops and let them figure that out. But I need to know that I have multiple appearances of one car. What if I have multiple appearances of one license plate that's on 5 different cars? Then, because your software is capturing the make, right?
So you hit it right on.
Right, that's important.
I mentioned earlier that the analytics component is something that has to be developed so comprehensive and also so adaptive to that particular market,
right,
or to that particular business. So, I use a casino as an example here. Use the theme parks. They have different business model. They have different interests. And, how we as a company to figure out a component that is going to deliver the ultimate value to them, I will say the only way to do that is sit down with them.
Okay, so but you can technically do it.
All of you guys, if you have an interest to approach us, we have a sit down so that we have something to start off with, but we ultimately need to understand your needs so that we come up that analytical component for you.
So you could sit down and say, I'm the theme park, and you'll write some code for and make that happen. That's the best way to do it, because it's got to be customized to the location. Yeah,
exactly. So that's on our business plan as far as engaging at a consulting basis, so that because we can't know every industry.
That's true.
Right. So and we still like to focus the company to be a technology company so that we do exceptional well. But in the meantime, we definitely open our arms and saying, sit down with us. Let's understand what do you need.
Mr. Wang, President, Plate Smart Technologies, license plate recognition. This has been a really fascinating conversation. I love this product. I love the name. And I wish you guys well. And you're welcome to come on Security Guy Radio anytime you want.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Oh, by the way, I'm the Chief Technology Officer.
Oh, Chief Technology Officer. That's even better.
I'm the techie guy.
All right. Very nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Thank you.